Sophia had just returned from another one of her work trips. She walked into the house with her usual charm, giving Lily a tight hug and flashing me a warm smile. But something felt off. Her makeup was smudged, and her hair looked hurriedly combed. For someone who was supposedly at a 3-day marketing seminar, she looked strangely disheveled. I brushed it off at first. After all, we'd been married for 10 years, and I trusted her. Or maybe I wanted to trust her. But then it happened. That night, as I cleaned the garage, I stumbled upon Sophia's old suitcase. It was tucked away behind some forgotten boxes, covered in dust. Something about it caught my eye. Maybe it was the faint smell of her perfume or the strange weight of it when I moved it. I unzipped the suitcase, expecting nothing more than forgotten clothes or souvenirs. Instead, I found a hidden compartment stuffed with receipts, hotel key cards, and even Polaroid pictures. My heart stopped. The receipts weren't for business dinners, they were for candlelit meals for two. The hotel key cards weren't for chain hotels, they were for luxurious suites with romantic names like the honeymoon suite. And the pictures? They showed Sophia wrapped around a man who was most definitely not me. I froze, my hands trembling as I pieced together the evidence. There was no denying it. My wife, the woman I'd loved, trusted, and built a life with, was cheating on me. The confrontation. I didn't say anything that night. I couldn't. My mind was a storm of anger, disbelief, and heartbreak. But the next morning, I couldn't hold it in any longer. As Sophia prepared breakfast in the kitchen, I slammed the suitcase onto the dining table. "Care to explain this?" I said, my voice shaking with rage. Sophia turned, her eyes widening as she saw the suitcase and its incriminating contents. For a moment, she said nothing, just staring at me like a deer caught in headlights. "David, it's not what it looks like," she started, but I cut her off. "Not what it looks like? Then what the hell is it, Sophia? Because it looks like my wife has been screwing around with some other guy while I've been working my ass off to give us a better life." Sophia's face crumpled, and she began to cry. But her tears didn't move me. Not this time. "It was a mistake," she sobbed. "It didn't mean anything. Please, David, let me explain." "Mistake? This wasn't a one-time thing, Sophia," I shouted, throwing one of the Polaroids at her. "This is a damn scrapbook of your affair. How long has this been going on? And who the hell is he?" Sophia hesitated, and in that moment, I knew the answer before she even said it. "It's Elliot," she whispered. "Elliot. Her boss. The man who always called her at odd hours and praised her dedication to her job. The man I'd always felt uneasy about but dismissed as paranoia." The drama unfolds. Sophia tried to explain, spinning some sob story about how Elliot had been there for her when she felt neglected by me. Neglected? I was furious. Everything I'd done, working late nights, skipping vacations, taking on extra projects, had been for her and Lily. And this was how she repaid me? I told her I wanted her out of the house, that she could pack her things and go live with Elliot if he was so supportive. But Sophia refused. "David, think about Lily," she pleaded. "She needs both of us. We can work through this. I'll end it with Elliot. I'll do whatever it takes. Please, just give me a chance." Her words were hollow, her promises meaningless. But for Lily's sake, I decided to wait before making any drastic decisions. I didn't want my daughter to wake up one morning to find her family shattered without warning. Still, I couldn't look at Sophia the same way. Every time she touched me, every time she smiled, all I could see were those pictures. All I could think about was her betrayal, a seed of revenge. That night, as I lay awake in bed, I began to think. Sophia had torn our family apart with her lies, but I wasn't going to let her walk away unscathed. If she thought she could betray me and still keep the life we'd built together, she was dead wrong. And so, the idea of revenge began to take root in my mind. Sophia had been on edge since I confronted her. She moved around the house like a ghost, avoiding my eyes, trying to act normal for Lily's sake. But I could see her guilt eating away at her. She spent hours on her phone, glancing at me nervously whenever I walked by. She wasn't just scared, she was hiding something. At first, I thought it was just her pathetic attempts to keep her affair under wraps. Maybe she was texting Elliot, trying to figure out how to salvage her double life. But the more I watched her, the more suspicious I became. She wasn't just scared of me, she was scared of something else. The slip-up. One night, about a week after the confrontation, I caught Sophia in the middle of a hushed phone call. I was walking down the hallway when I heard her whispering in the kitchen. "I told you, we can't talk right now. He's watching me like a hawk," she hissed. I stopped dead in my tracks, my blood boiling. Who was she talking to? Elliot? She paused, listening to whoever was on the other end of the line. No, I didn't tell him anything. Are you insane? If he finds out, it's over for both of us. My stomach dropped. If I find out what? I couldn't take it anymore. I pushed open the kitchen door, and Sophia nearly jumped out of her skin. Who are you talking to? I demanded. She fumbled with her phone, quickly ending the call. No one, she said, her voice trembling. I snatched the phone out of her hand before she could stop me, but the call log was empty. She deleted the number. No one, huh? I said, holding up the phone. Then why are you acting like a criminal caught red-handed? Sophia stammered, her face pale. David, please, it's not what you think. Oh, really? I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Because right now, it looks like you're keeping even more secrets from me. What the hell is going on, Sophia? But she didn't answer. Instead, she burst into tears, burying her face in her hands. The discovery, her reaction only fueled my suspicion. If she wasn't going to tell me the truth, I'd find it myself. The next day, while Sophia was out running errands, I decided to search through her things. I started with her purse, nothing but the usual items: wallet, keys, makeup. Then I moved to her desk in the home office. I rifled through drawers, flipping through files and notebooks. That's when I found it. At the bottom of a drawer, hidden under a stack of old receipts, was a second phone. My heart raced as I powered it on. It was locked, but I wasn't about to give up. I tried her usual passcode, Lily's birth date, and the phone unlocked. What I found made my blood run cold. The phone was filled with messages, photos, and videos that painted an even darker picture of Sophia's affair. But the real shock came when I stumbled upon a video of her and Elliot in what looked like a hotel room. They weren't just talking about their affair, they were arguing. You said he wouldn't find out. Elliot barked, his voice low and furious. I didn't think he would, Sophia snapped. But he's not stupid, Elliot. He's already suspicious. If he figures out everything, we're screwed. Then you better make sure he doesn't, Elliot growled. The video cut off there, but it left me with more questions than answers. Figure out what? What were they hiding beyond the affair? The twist. I spent the next few days digging deeper, scouring Sophia's secret phone for more clues. That's when I uncovered the truth, and it was far worse than I could have imagined. Sophia and Elliot weren't just having an affair, they were stealing from the company. The messages between them revealed a scheme they'd been running for months. Sophia would forge client contracts and funnel money into a shell account Elliot had set up. Together, they'd siphoned off tens of thousands of dollars, money that was supposed to go to the company. And now, with my discovery of their affair, they were terrified I'd stumble upon the rest of their secrets. It all made sense. That's why Sophia was so desperate to keep me in the dark. That's why Elliot had been so possessive. They weren't just guilty lovers, they were criminals. The confrontation 2.0. When I confronted Sophia about the second phone and the evidence I'd found, she completely broke down. You don't understand, David, she sobbed. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Elliot promised me it would just be a little extra money, something to help us get ahead. But it spiraled out of control. I didn't know how to stop. You didn't know how to stop? I spat. Are you kidding me, Sophia? You were stealing, and you dragged me and Lily into this mess without a second thought. She fell to her knees, grabbing my hands. Please, David, you have to help me. If this comes out, I'll lose everything. We'll lose everything. Please, don't tell anyone. Her audacity left me speechless. She wanted me to cover for her after everything she'd done, after betraying me, lying to me, and dragging our family's name through the mud. The breaking point. I stared at her, my heart pounding. Part of me wanted to walk away, to leave her to face the consequences of her actions. But another part of me wanted revenge, not just for her betrayal, but for the sheer nerve of asking me to save her after everything she'd done. You're going to regret this, Sophia, I said, my voice cold and steady. You and Elliot both. And with that, I walked out of the room, leaving her sobbing on the floor. That night, as I lay awake in bed, the pieces of my plan began to fall into place. If Sophia thought she could manipulate me into saving her, she was in for a rude awakening. I wasn't just going to expose her affair. I was going to destroy everything she and Elliot had built together. Sitting in my office that night, the anger within me solidified into cold, calculated determination. Sophia and Elliot didn't just betray me, they underestimated me. They thought I'd crumble under the weight of their lies, that I'd let them walk away unscathed. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. I opened my laptop, poured myself a glass of whiskey, and began plotting. If I was going to take them down, I needed to be smart, thorough, and relentless. Step 1: Gathering evidence. The first step was ensuring I had all the proof I needed. I spent hours combing through Sophia's secret phone, taking screenshots of every incriminating text, email, and video. Their messages detailed everything: how they manipulated contracts, the fake accounts they set up, and even their plans to cover their tracks. But I needed more. Something undeniable, something that would destroy any chance of them wiggling out of this. The next morning, while Sophia was in the shower, I took her laptop. It was risky, but I was banking on her not noticing. I accessed her work emails using the same password she always used. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for: dozens of forged contracts and correspondence with Elliot. I forwarded everything to myself, labeling each file meticulously. This wasn't just evidence of her infidelity, it was a roadmap to their entire criminal operation. Step 2: recruiting an ally. I couldn't do this alone. I needed someone who could help me navigate the legal and financial aspects of this mess. Someone who could ensure that Sophia and Elliot paid the price for what they'd done. That's where Marcus came in. Marcus was an old college buddy of mine, now a top-tier corporate lawyer. We hadn't spoken in a while, but I knew I could count on him. I called him that afternoon, skipping the pleasantries and diving straight into the story. "Marcus, I need your help," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "Sophia's been cheating on me, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. She and her lover are embezzling money from her company. I have proof, but I need to know how to proceed without getting myself caught in the crossfire." Marcus didn't hesitate. "David, this is serious. If they are committing fraud, the company could come after you, too, especially if Sophia tries to pin anything on you. Send me everything you have, and I'll help you build a case." I emailed him the files immediately. By the end of the day, Marcus had outlined a plan to expose Sophia and Elliot without implicating myself. He also advised me to stay calm and avoid tipping them off. Step 3: setting the trap. With Marcus's guidance, I began laying the groundwork for their downfall. The goal wasn't just to expose their affair and their crimes, it was to leave them with no escape. I started by planting subtle doubts at Sophia's workplace. Using an anonymous email, I sent a tip to her company's HR department, claiming there were irregularities in the contracts she handled. I attached a few of the less damning documents as evidence, just enough to spark an internal investigation. Then, I set my sights on Elliot. I knew he was arrogant, the kind of guy who thought he was untouchable. So, I played into that. I created a fake email account posing as a potential client and reached out to him with a lucrative proposal. My offer required him to provide bank details for a deposit, which I knew he'd linked to one of their shell accounts. Sure enough, he took the bait. Now I had everything: the fraudulent contracts, the bank account information, and a clear trail connecting Sophia and Elliot to the stolen money. Step 4: the psychological game. While I built my case, I started messing with Sophia's head. If she wanted to play dirty, I'd show her how it was done. I left subtle clues around the house, little things that would make her paranoid. I'd leave my phone on the kitchen counter with fake messages on the screen, hinting that I was meeting with a lawyer. I'd stay out late and come home smelling like perfume I sprayed on myself in the car. Sophia started to unravel. She became jumpy, constantly checking her phone and questioning me about where I was going. It was almost pathetic to watch her squirm, knowing she had no idea what was coming. Step 5: preparing the final blow. As the investigation at her workplace gained momentum, I made my final move. I compiled all the evidence: emails, texts, bank statements, and even the video of Sophia and Elliot arguing, and sent it to the company's CEO, along with a detailed letter explaining their scheme. I signed the letter anonymously, but I knew it would only be a matter of time before they connected the dots. Sophia and Elliot had made too many enemies at work to escape scrutiny, but I wasn't done yet. I wanted Sophia to know it was me. I wanted her to see the betrayal coming and feel the same sense of helplessness I had. The ultimatum. The night before I set everything in motion, I confronted her one last time. "Sophia," I said, sitting across from her at the dining table, "I know everything. The affair, the stolen money, the lies. It's over." Her face went pale. "David, please, I can explain." "No," I cut her off. "You don't get to explain. You don't get to lie your way out of this. Tomorrow, the truth comes out, and when it does, you and Elliot will finally get what you deserve." Tears streamed down her face, but I felt nothing. Not anger, not pity, not love. She was just a stranger to me now, a stranger who had destroyed everything we'd built together. "David," she whispered, her voice trembling, "please, think about Lily. Don't do this. Don't ruin our family." I stood up, looking down at her with cold eyes. "You already ruined it, Sophia. I'm just finishing what you started." And with that, I walked away, leaving her sobbing at the table. The morning after my confrontation with Sophia, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. The storm inside me had passed, replaced by an icy resolve. Today was the day everything came crashing down for Sophia and Elliot, and there was no turning back. The work bombshell. At exactly 900 a.m., Sophia's company received the anonymous tip I had sent, complete with every piece of evidence linking her and Elliot to their fraudulent schemes. The CEO, Gerald Whittaker, was a nonsense man with a reputation for swift action when it came to corporate misconduct. He immediately called an emergency meeting with HR, legal, and the finance department. Meanwhile, at the same time, Elliot received a polite but firm email from the company's compliance officer, requesting a meeting that morning to discuss irregularities in recent client accounts. Sophia had no idea what was brewing. She kissed Lily goodbye, pretending everything was normal, and left for work. I watched her drive away, my heart pounding. She was walking straight into the lion's den, and she didn't even know it. The office implosion. By noon, the cracks were starting to show. Sophia's phone rang incessantly while she sat in a meeting. HR demanded she report to their office immediately, under the pretense of discussing a new compliance policy. Elliot, on the other hand, was blindsided by the documents presented to him in his meeting. They weren't just suspicious, they were damning. I timed everything perfectly. The moment Sophia stepped into the HR office, she was met with a team of lawyers and compliance officers who didn't even bother to hide their disgust. Sophia, Gerald began coldly, sliding a stack of papers across the table. We've received serious allegations regarding your handling of client accounts. These documents suggest you've been orchestrating fraudulent activities alongside Mr. Elliot Harrington. Do you have anything to say for yourself? Sophia stammered, her face draining of color. "You don't know what you're talking about. There must be some kind of mistake." But Gerald wasn't buying it. "This isn't a mistake. We've already frozen the accounts linked to these transactions and contacted our legal team. You're suspended effective immediately, pending further investigation." Sophia tried to fight back, but the evidence was overwhelming. She was escorted out of the building by security, her co-workers whispering behind her back. She called Elliot in a panic, but he wasn't answering. Elliot's downfall. Elliot was having a meltdown of his own. The fake client email I'd sent was the final nail in his coffin. When the compliance team pulled up the transaction details, they found the fraudulent account he'd set up in his name. It was only a matter of time before the authorities got involved. By the end of the day, Elliot's name was removed from the company directory, and he was escorted out of the building in disgrace. But I wasn't done with him yet. Public humiliation. One of the most satisfying parts of the plan was exposing their affair to everyone they knew. Using Sophia's old phone, I sent the videos and incriminating messages to her family, friends, and co-workers. The group chat we shared with her family exploded with messages. Sophia's mother: "What is this, Sophia? Please tell me this isn't true." Her sister: "How could you do this to David? To Lily? What were you thinking?" Sophia called me in a rage, screaming through the phone. "David, how could you do this? You had no right to share our private business." "Our private business?" I shot back. "You mean your affair? Your fraud? Don't act like the victim, Sophia. You brought this on yourself." The custody power move. While Sophia was scrambling to salvage what little she could, I made another critical move, filing for full custody of Lily. With Marcus's help, I filed the paperwork, citing Sophia's unethical behavior and financial crimes as evidence that she was an unfit parent. The kicker? I included screenshots of Sophia's texts with Elliot where she joked about using company money to fund their escapades and how David would never know. Sophia was served the papers that same evening. When she arrived home, her face was pale, and her hands trembled as she read through the documents. "You're trying to take Lily from me," she shrieked, tears streaming down her face. "You can't do this, David. She's my daughter." "She's my daughter too," I replied coldly, "and unlike you, I actually care about her well-being. Do you think a judge is going to side with you after everything you've done?" Her sobs turned into screams as she threw the papers at me. "You're destroying my life." "No, Sophia," I said, looking her dead in the eye. "You destroyed it yourself." The final blow. To ensure there was no way for Sophia or Elliot to rebuild their reputations, I leaked the story to a local journalist. They ran an article titled "High-Ranking Executives Exposed in Embezzlement and Scandalous Affair," complete with blurred images from the videos. The story went viral, and soon everyone in town was talking about it. Sophia's parents, who had always treated me like a second son, called to apologize for her behavior. They were devastated and refused to let her stay with them. Elliot's wife, who had been blissfully unaware of his double life, filed for divorce the very next day. The cherry on top, Sophia and Elliot were both fired from their jobs and blacklisted in their industries. No company would touch them after the scandal. Sophia's breaking point. By the end of the week, Sophia was a shell of her former self. She begged me to reconsider, to forgive her, to let her stay in the house for Lily's sake. "I'll do anything, David," she cried, collapsing at my feet. "I made a mistake. Please don't take everything from me." I looked down at her, feeling no pity. "You didn't just make a mistake, Sophia. You made a choice, and now you have to live with the consequences." And with that, I walked away, leaving her sobbing on the floor. Life after revenge was a strange mix of serenity and chaos. On one hand, I had successfully dismantled Sophia's web of lies, exposed Elliot for the snake he was, and secured a fresh start for myself and Lily. On the other hand, I was now navigating the fallout of a life that had been blown to pieces, mine, Sophia's, and everyone caught in the crossfire. The custody battle. Sophia fought tooth and nail in court to retain some semblance of control over Lily. She showed up to the hearings in cheap, hastily bought outfits, a stark contrast to the designer dresses she once flaunted. Her lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive and controlling, claiming my actions had been motivated by spite rather than Lily's best interests. But the evidence was stacked against her. The court reviewed the documentation of her embezzlement, her affair, and the countless messages where she prioritized her relationship with Elliot over her duties as a mother. My lawyer, Marcus, presented a compelling case that Sophia's unstable financial and emotional state made her unfit to have full custody of Lily. Sophia tried to fight back with tears, playing the victim in front of the judge. "I've made mistakes," she sobbed, clutching a tissue, "but I'm Lily's mother. She needs me." I kept my composure, even when I wanted to scream. "Your Honor," I said calmly, "Lily needs stability, and Sophia's actions have proven she can't provide that. I'm not asking to take her mother away, I'm asking to protect my daughter from a toxic environment." In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. I was granted primary custody, with Sophia receiving supervised visitation rights. The look of defeat on her face as the ruling was announced was both satisfying and heart-wrenching. She had brought this on herself, but it was still hard to watch her lose everything. Sophia's new reality. After losing her job, her reputation, and custody of Lily, Sophia's life spiraled into a grim series of misfortunes. She moved into a dingy one-bedroom apartment on the outskirts of town, struggling to make ends meet with a part-time retail job. Her family, embarrassed by the scandal, kept their distance. Her social circle evaporated overnight. No one wanted to associate with a disgraced fraudster. I heard through mutual acquaintances that she tried reaching out to Elliot, hoping to rekindle their toxic romance, but he had already skipped town. Rumor had it, he was hiding out in another state, dodging lawsuits and creditors. He'd abandoned her, just as I had predicted. One evening, Sophia showed up at my doorstep unannounced, looking like a ghost of the woman I once knew. Her hair was unkempt, her eyes hollow, and her clothes hung loosely on her frame. "David," she whispered, her voice trembling, "I need help. Please, for Lily's sake." I stared at her, my mind flashing back to all the nights I stayed awake, wondering how I had failed her, wondering how she could betray me so cruelly. But there was no anger left in me, only pity. "Help yourself first, Sophia," I said, my tone firm but not unkind. "That's the only way you'll ever be able to help Lily." I closed the door, leaving her standing in the cold. Lily's healing process. Lily was young, but she wasn't oblivious. She sensed the tension between her parents, the sudden absence of her mother, and the changes in our lives. "Why doesn't Mommy live with us anymore?" she asked one night, her wide eyes brimming with confusion. I knelt down and took her tiny hands in mine. "Mommy made some mistakes, sweetheart. But she loves you very much, and she'll always be your mom. But why can't she stay here?" I struggled to find the right words. Sometimes, grown-ups need to figure things out on their own before they can be the best parents they can be. "Mommy's doing that right now." Lily nodded slowly, as if she understood more than I expected. Over time, I worked hard to create a stable and loving environment for her. I enrolled her in dance classes, took her on weekend trips, and made sure she always felt safe and cared for. Rebuilding my life. The weeks and months after the divorce were a whirlwind of change. I sold the house, it was too full of painful memories, and moved to a smaller, cozier place closer to my office. Marcus, my lawyer and newfound friend, encouraged me to join a support group for single fathers. At first, I was hesitant, but it turned out to be one of the best decisions I ever made. Sharing my story with others who had been through similar experiences was cathartic, and their advice helped me navigate the challenges of single parenthood. I also threw myself into my work, earning a promotion to senior architect within 6 months. The extra income allowed me to provide a comfortable life for Lily and start saving for her future. Sophia's rock bottom. Sophia's decline continued. One day, I received a call from her sister, Hannah, who was frantic. "David, you need to talk to her," she pleaded. "Sophia's not doing well. She's drinking a lot, and I'm worried she's going to hurt herself." I hesitated. Sophia wasn't my responsibility anymore, but she was still the mother of my child. I agreed to meet her at a nearby cafe. When I arrived, I barely recognized her. She was gaunt, her eyes bloodshot, and her hand shook as she sipped her coffee. "David," she said, her voice cracking, "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm sorry for everything. I ruined our family, and I'll never forgive myself for that." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to comfort her, but another part of me knew that forgiveness wouldn't fix her. She needed to fix herself. "Sophia," I said gently, "the best thing you can do right now is get help. For yourself and for Lily." A new chapter. As the years passed, life settled into a new normal. Sophia eventually entered rehab and started piecing her life back together. She regained limited custody of Lily, and while our co-parenting relationship was far from perfect, it was functional. As for me, I found peace. I wasn't the same man I was before Sophia's betrayal, but I had emerged stronger, wiser, and more resilient. One day, as I watched Lily perform at her dance recital, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Despite everything, I had managed to protect what mattered most, and for that, I had no regrets.